Hey, Language Arts parents. Here's another Friday review and preview for this week. Started with September 21st, looking ahead to next week also. Once my slides get pulled up here, it was a good week, and I'll get more into that here in just a minute. But yeah, I was impressed with what kids were able to produce and their focus this week. So I was pleased. This week we accomplished turning in our first memoir piece, and so students should have been doing some writing at home. They had homework, I believe, every day this week to just continue to add and build onto that first memoir piece. The main feedback I had, the main critique I had for those was that we struggled to tell stories that had purpose. That we struggled to tell stories that told me something about them. And so that's kind of the main thing that we focused on in the second memoir story is that they really had like this moment had value to them, and they can see how it has shaped them up to this point. Uh, so yeah, that's Monday and Tuesday. They turned that in on Tuesday. Wednesday they started memoir number 2, and that's going to be due at the start of class on Monday, as you can see there. We focused on intros and conclusions during class today. I also helped them upgrade some of the details in their story. One part of memoir is that we can't remember everything that's happened to us perfectly, including dialogue, including things that we were, like our sensory details that we were experiencing, what we were maybe smelling or seeing in a certain moment. And so, what memoir writers usually do is they kind of improvise some of those details in a way that's still factual. So they don't completely make things up in a way that would be fictional, but they keep things legitimate without compromising on the story. So they really really try to make it engaging, and sometimes that means making up some of the details, even though that's very well the way it could have happened, but it just might not have been exactly. So we talked about that today, and also upgrading their language. I introduced them to the thesaurus. They were very confused at first, based on not only the spelling and the word thesaurus, but kind of how to use it. I told them though that they should have that pulled up on their Chromes anytime that they are typing, because it's a great way to modify their language in case they're overusing certain words. We also did Lexia this week, which is that online tool, that online software piece that we're using to boost things like reading comprehension and grammar and word choice. I have made kind of a big change this week, and I had told them that they can start doing it at home. Uh, Here at the start of the year, they have a lot of minutes prescribed to them. Some of them have as many as 145 minutes, over 2 hours a week. That will reduce as we go throughout the year, but their pre-assessments showed that for the most part we're pretty behind on a lot of these things. And so at the start of the year, they have more minutes, and as they continue to reach mastery in some of these areas, those minutes are going to go down. So since we can't provide that much class time for it right now, I'd have told them that they can do it outside of class, between about an hour or so a week that I give them in class, and then time they're getting in seminar. They shouldn't have too tough of a time reaching that goal, but I understand that is pretty ambitious here at the start. I'm going to put a check mark on my homework list, and then that homework list eventually goes in the gradebook. Every time we get to 10 homework assignments completed, then that goes into the gradebook. So I'll be adding that in the next week or two, I believe, probably next week. You'll be able to see the evidence of what they've been doing for homework. So encourage them to finish Lexia at home. Even if they've reached their minutes, they can continue to go above and beyond. And so you can always have them working on that. Keep an eye on them while they're doing it, so they're not doing anything else in their Chromes, but please make sure they're doing it independently without your support. All right, so for next week, like I said, memoir number 2 is due at the start of class on Monday, and then we're going to work on publishing it. We're going to write an introduction to that piece and our first piece, try to find some ways to connect them. That will either take 2 or 3 days. Not really sure how long yet, so that's why we're kind of reserving Thursday for wrapping up the unit. But we're hoping to get them to publishing stage, and then we have a language arts like literary magazine that we're going to send out at the end of September, beginning of October, that demonstrates some of the highest quality work in the grade. So hopefully students are aspiring to that. They're hoping to get their work published in our magazine, and that'll come to parents through email. And then next Friday, we begin our literary nonfiction unit. So finally starting our second unit of the year. Now that we're a little over a month, we will be a little over a month into the school year. And so literary nonfiction is kind of similar to memoir, actually. It's going to be a reading unit instead of a writing unit. So we're going to kind of shift our focus to what are some powerful stories that have been told about important figures and events in history, and how have they been told through narrative means. So taking really, really interesting, like biographical stories, like what has happened to some of these amazing people, and telling those stories well through story. So it's not just a biography fact book, it's a narrative novel, essentially. All right. Well, some other things to mention. I do need to make sure that students are bringing headphones every day. Lexia, they need headphones for, and then just kind of different things we do throughout the day. That is a required component of something they bring with them each day. I've been surprised by how few kids have them. In both of my sections, I'm missing 7 or 8 students who don't have headphones. Last year, they weren't allowed to have them, and I had a hard time getting them to put them away. And so this year, I'm having the opposite problem. It's strange how rules have that effect on kids, but please make sure they have headphones. They can be a cheap pair, but I need them to have headphones. Be thinking about checking PowerSchool, Google Classroom, and email. If you're not added to my Google Classroom, let me know. I'm going to double check that in the next week or so, make sure everybody's on there. I have some questions once in a while from parents like, which assignments are missing, or what can my student do to get their grade up. I'm glad to give that feedback, but a lot of that is found on PowerSchool and Google Classroom. So I would kind of direct you there first, because I do try to make sure that feedback is there for you, so that you can be keeping up with that, and that your students can be keeping up with that as well. Students should have an independent reading book every day, every night. That's not new, but just want to remind you, I have a couple of kids who are struggling with that right now. I have somewhere in the neighborhood of 3,000 books in my classroom, so they have plenty of options. And make sure they're hitting their Lexia minutes next week. Feel free to talk to them about that. Talk to them about their goal setting there. And like I said at the very beginning, it was a really great week. I told my first block today. Talk to my 7-8 block about this later this afternoon, but it's been a really good week. I've been very impressed with their focus and what they've been able to produce. They're taking the feedback that I'm giving them and using it to better their writing. I would say so far this has been pretty clearly the best group of kids in terms of this first unit, what they've been able to produce. I think a lot of them are learning a lot about themselves through this memoir unit, and that's the goal. Ultimately, I want them to be good writers, but I want them to be good people even more. So this memoir unit accomplishes that to an extent. All right, please let me know if you have any questions or concerns. Otherwise, I will see you next week.